I will call this meeting to order. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Niqawak, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Ipitimiswak Métis Nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. And I will just make a quick mention that the Métis Nation office in Edson will be having their grand opening tomorrow for anybody that wants to attend. With that, can I get a motion, please, for the adoption of the agenda for the September 16th, 2025 budget workshop be adopted as presented? Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
I move the agenda for September 16, 2025 budget workshop be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. And we will move on to council budget workshop. So before we hand things over to Ms. McDonald, just want to point out to council that we will be keeping things at a high level here this afternoon. We do have a lot of information to go through, and do ask council to stay on topic on the agenda items that we are discussing at that time in the interest of time. And we will be taking a break at 6 o'clock for a quick dinner, and then we'll resume the meeting afterwards. With that, I'll hand things over to CEO Beveridge to say a few words.
Good afternoon, Mayor Zahara and members of Council. I'm very pleased today to present Council's budget, a responsible and forward-looking financial plan. It reflects our shared commitment to financial and fiscal stewardship, operational efficiency, and community progress. This is a high-level overview. It introduces the key themes and the direction of the budget. Council will take a deeper dive post-election for further discussion and refinement. This is a responsible financial plan developed through extensive work by administration, built on a strategic planning and collaboration. It maintains current service levels, no increase to user fees or utility rates, absorbs inflationary pressures, and keeps the tax rate reasonable through careful reserve management. This budget was built on an organizational effort and collaboration. All departments contributed detailed budget submissions. Administration aligned operational needs with strategic priorities. Multiple internal meetings, presentations, and executive sessions supported the process. We ensured clarity, consistency, and alignment across the organization. This budget focuses on cost reduction and efficiency. Each cost center was reviewed for cost-saving opportunities. Expenditures were reduced where trends allowed, such as utility and supplies. Service delivery maintained without compromise. We avoided unnecessary increases unless justified by safety, compliance, and strategic value. This budget was also built with community engagement. Public engagement was actively sought and valued. Surveys and engagement events helped shape our priorities. We reinforced our commitment to transparency and responsiveness. We also focused on strategic use of reserves, continued contributions to operating and capital reserves, as well as reserves were responsibly drawn upon to support operations. The capital investment and progress in this budget reflects Council's commitment to long-term progress. This includes such major developments such as the YC multiplex and many infrastructure upgrades. This capital budget is designed to improve the community experience and infrastructure resilience. Finally, this is Council's budget. It reflects many of our values: adaptability, focus on results, service excellence, and transparency. We feel that this budget balances today's needs and tomorrow's opportunities, and this ensures Edson remains vibrant, resilient, and attractive community. This is just the beginning. As I said, Council will revisit this budget in much greater detail when we return post-election. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we will hand things over to our Chief Financial Officer, Denise McDonald. Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and CAO Beveridge. Good day, Mayor and Council. The 2026 budget workshop reflects a continued effort to improve our budget development process, building on the feedback and lessons learned from 2025. This year's approach is intended to be more focused and transparent with clearer links to the strategic priorities, financial planning, and community input. Today's session will provide an overview of the draft operating and capital budgets for 2026 and beyond, including key drivers, challenges, and areas of opportunity. The proposed budget supports ongoing service delivery and fiscal responsibility while aiming to maintain a reasonable tax increase. This draft is presented for discussion and feedback purposes. We encourage council to ask questions and share insight to help shape the final budget. This is the overview of our presentation today. First of all is the budget process and the steps taken to build the 2026 budget. We'll look at the public engagement, including community input and how it shapes the priorities. We'll review the municipality as a whole, the context behind financial decisions, including the strategic plan, our financial health, key areas to balance, areas of progress, opportunities, challenges, and improvements. Then we'll have an executive summary. This is the main highlight of the budget. Financial summary looks at the townwide operations and capital requirements. Department budgets at a glance review the budget changes between 2025 and 2026. Finally, we'll look at the budget impact and provide council with a summary. The 2026 budget process outlines the steps necessary to present the 26 budget and beyond to council for final approval. Step 1, administration review and forecast. We began our budget process in February with a comprehensive review of historical costs. Administration developed project plans and identified the resources required for the 26 operational year, plus 3 additional years for operating and 5 years for capital planning. This foundational work ensures our budget is built on realistic, data-driven assumptions. Step 2 is public engagement. In April, we launched a public engagement campaign that included both in-person events and surveys. The feedback collected was instrumental in shaping priorities and aligning the budget with community expectations. This step reinforces transparency and ensures our residents have a voice in the process. Step 3, analysis and revenue forecasting. In August, the Finance Department reviewed all inputs, including reserve allocations, grant and availability. Internal charges were reviewed and considerations were given to centralizing expenses. We assessed funding requirements and revenue forecasts to ensure the budget is financially stable. Step 4, current council input. Today we present the draft budget to the current council. This session allows for initial feedback and alignment with the current council direction. Step 5 is the future council. After the election, we will introduce the budget to an incoming council meeting on October 27th to ensure continuity and understanding. Then on November 18th, we will formally propose the draft budget for approval. The final step ensures the budget reflects both current and future leadership priorities. Public engagement continues to be a vital part of our budget process. It helps ensure that our financial decisions reflect the values and expectations of the community we serve. The purpose of this year's engagement was twofold. First, to gather input on budget priorities and service level satisfaction. And second, to ensure our decisions are grounded in what matters most to residents. We used a mix of methods to reach people. A statistically valid survey with 271 responses gave us a baseline for the 2026 budget engagement. In 2025 budget process engagement, the survey attracted 267 participants. Open houses and targeted focus groups allowed for deeper conversations. All efforts were aligned with Council's strategic plan to ensure authentic and meaningful engagement. Several key themes emerged. There's a strong support for continued investment in infrastructure. Residents expressed a desire for increased service levels, particularly in public works and community enforcement. Public safety remains a top concern, especially in relation to encampments and community enforcement visibility. These insights have helped to shape the proposed budget and will continue to inform our priorities moving forward. The feedback we've received through our engagement efforts have provided valuable insight into what matters most to Edson residents. The resident priorities were clear. People want to maintain quality of life and essential services. There's a strong support for responsible infrastructure investment. Residents are looking for improved visibility and responsiveness in how services are delivered. On the financial outlook, the majority of respondents indicated support for modest user fee increases, provided they see measurable value in return. This reinforces the importance of transparency and accountability in how we allocate resources. We also gathered additional insights. Communications are seen as effective and improving, which is encouraging. Customer service satisfaction is solid, though there's room for enhanced personalization and responsiveness. Overall, the engagement reflects a realistic, forward-looking community, one that understands the trade-offs and supports thoughtful investment. These results have helped shape the proposed budget and ensure it reflects both community values and council's strategic direction. The municipal overview takes a broad look at the municipal budget. The 2026 budget story continues to build around the theme of balance, and that plays across several key areas, including cost of services. We continue to see upward pressure on the cost of delivering municipal services, from inflation, contractual obligations, regulatory requirements. This budget reflects the need to manage those costs while maintaining the service levels our community expects. Infrastructure deficit. Like many municipalities, Edson faces an infrastructure gap. Aging assets require reinvestment, and this budget begins to address that through prioritized capital planning and life cycle funding strategies. Financial stability. Financial sustainability. Long-term sustainability remains a guided principle. We work to ensure that today's decisions don't compromise our ability to deliver services in the future. This includes responsible forecasting, debt management, and aligning spending with capacity. Reserve management. Reserves are a critical tool for managing risk and planning for the future. This budget includes thoughtful contributions to reserves to support and asset renewal, emergency response, and financial stability. Alignment with council's strategic priorities. Finally, this budget is aligned with council's strategic direction. It supports the goals that this council has set for community well-being, to economic resilience, and ensures the financial decisions are grounded in your long-term vision. The Town of Edson's budget is guided by the 5 strategic pillars that reflects council's long-term vision and priorities. Creating a connected community that's safe and inclusive, fostering a robust and adaptable economy, ensuring quality infrastructure, responding to changing global environment, and providing effective leadership and community engagement. The financial health snapshot highlights the key areas of our financial health strategy. While progress has been made, the focus in key areas remain ongoing and require continued attention. Reserves and reserve fund management. We developed a reserve policy and are using it to identify the funding gaps for municipal infrastructure and asset management. However, we must be careful that reserve spending does not exceed reserve contributions. Debt management. Edson is in a strong debt position with manageable levels and clear oversight. Utility self-sustaining strategy. The 2026 utility budget is balanced, with revenues covering operational costs. However, we need to strengthen funding strategies to ensure user fees support long-term capital infrastructure. Budgeting processes. We have made progress in establishing consistent budgeting practices that support continuous improvement and transparency. Off-site levies. This remains a future priority It is scheduled for review in the 2027 budget. Asset management, initial work has begun, but integration into daily operations is still in progress. Collaboration with finance on tangible capital assets will continue, as well as resource planning for training and process development. Capital funding strategies. As part of our annual budgeting cycle, we're working to strengthen long-term capital planning and address funding gaps to ensure future financial stability. Edson's strengths include a trading area supporting regional commerce and services. Our economy is diverse and resilient. Our progress in community infrastructure includes the completion of the Edson and District Public Library, and that the YCE multiplex remains on track and for full construction by 2027. Highway 16 connects us to exports via road and rail, and notably, Edson invests in its youth programs like Youth Council and Youth Interagency. Our fiscal pressures and strategic progress include reserve sustainability remains a concern. We're working to balance the use of reserves with long-term replenishment to protect future infrastructure funding. We still face infrastructure gaps, particularly in water production, downtown redevelopment, stormwater and sanitary infrastructure, and long-term planning for the Civic Center. Inflation and cost volatility, especially in the area of fuel, materials, and interest rates. Rising costs continue to challenge the budget stability. On the improvement side, we've made progress in long-term infrastructure planning and identified infrastructure deficits. The improved budget process continues to be a focus in 2026. And finally, we're improving operational efficiencies across departments to streamline the processes. Debt limits are calculated as defined by Alberta regulations. The blue line is our 100% debt limit. However, municipalities that exceed 75% of this limit are considered higher risk and must submit financial viability reports to the province in order to exceed this limit. Therefore, we aim our focus on the red line, which is 75% of the debt limit being Edson's maximum limit. 2025 Edson is in a good debt position and utilizing only 16% of our total debt limit, or 22% of our 75% threshold. Our existing and projected debt is 8.7 million. There are debentures for roads maturing in 2025 and 2026, as well as 2028. The remaining debt falls in the environmental or utilities area. This area is supported by utility user fees. There is a water main debenture expiring in 2027. However, the wastewater treatment plant debenture does not expire until 2036. The new debt forecasted is as follows: 1.25 million for the fire truck for 10 years, 1.125 for Township Road 532 for a 20-year debenture. In the 2027 year, there's new debt forecasted for the YCE multiplex of 9 million. 28 and 29, there's no new debt forecasted at this time. This is our debt payments of existing and projected payments. For the 2026 budget, we have new debt for fire truck. We've included approximately 151,000. Township Road, 85,000. 2027 new debt includes 562,000 approximately for the YCE. Administration will closely monitor interest rates, and if conditions are favorable, we may proceed with debt financing. Given that the debenture payments begin 6 months after issuance, this approach allows an associated expenses to be deferred to the following fiscal year. Current rates are, as at August 29th, are 10-year 3.76, a 20-year is 4.46, 30-year is 4.72. The executive summary of what has been drafted includes proposing a 2.7% tax levy increase, no increase to tax user fees or utility fees. At this time, we're assuming no growth in assessment or requisitions. The budget addresses inflationary impacts on operations and it maintains existing service levels. It continues to maintain contributions to operating and capital reserves. The budget draws from reserves to support the operations and a reasonable tax rate of $1.5 million. The budget presents an increase of $300,296 in operating costs before transfers. The capital budget includes $52.5 million in capital project costs. $39 million of that is the YCE multiplex. Amortization is not included at this time for clarity. Let's have a look at the financial overview of our municipality. This detailed worksheet outlines the town's total revenues. Some accounting changes affect year-over-year comparisons at the line item level. However, overall revenue trends remain consistent. When we look at the total revenue excluding transfers from the 2024 actual through to the 29 budget, the stability is evident. The change between the 2025 budgeted revenue and the 2026 budgeted revenue is only $889,213. For 2026, the breakdown of revenues is primarily concentrated in three major categories. Municipal taxes includes 37%, user fees 18%, operating grants from other local governments 23%. A reasonable 2% increase is added into the future years for forecasting purposes. Now we look at the detailed worksheet on the town's total expenses. The overall line-by-line comparison is fairly reasonable and realistic. When we look at the total expenses excluding transfers from the 24 through to the 29 budget, the consistency continues. Changes between the 2025 budgeted expense and the 26 budgeted expenses is only $300,296. The operating budget includes a thorough review of all budget line items. Internal charges were reviewed for better methodology. This was done in three areas: equipment fleet rent, labor, and office space allocations. In addition, centralization of expenses into responsible areas such as building maintenance, IT, and office supplies has resulted in better budgeting and resulted in some cost savings. In addition, we continue to maintain a similar amount to reserves as past years by allocating 2.5% of the department's expenses to operating reserves and 6% to capital reserves. New budget requests totaling approximately $571,630 will be identified in more detail as we go through the departments at a glance. But with an increase of only $300,296, with the additions of over $571,000, means that this budget includes a number of cost-saving measures across the organization. For instance, we are part of the Alberta Plus agreement with Alberta Munis, which supported approximately $300,000 in savings due to being locked in, as well as the removal of the carbon tax. Now, when we look at our aggregated expenses, salary, wages, and benefits increased 7%. This includes the union collective agreement and other scope increases, but it also includes the increased costs for our benefits, pension, and employer contributions. This line item includes 134 employees, 43 salaried, and 91 union employees, and that includes our summer students and lifeguards. Contracted goods and services decreased 1%. Materials goods decreased 7%. Utilities increased 3%. Transfers to other local boards and agencies increased 10%. Provisions for allowances decreased 29%. This is where the tax incentive expense is budgeted. In 2025 was the peak year for the tax incentive program, and it will decline until the final year in 2029. Our three main expense categories as a percentage of our total expenses are salary, wages, and benefits, 37%. This is similar to all municipalities, and that cost can range 40 to 50% of total expenses. When compared to 2025, this line item is up 1% from 36% in 2025. Contracted services is 31%, just down 1% from 2025. This is where our RCMP contract is budgeted, as well as any other external support is expensed. It also includes travel and expenses, postage, telephone, advertising, memberships, staff development, assessment, audit fees, legal services, computer programs, software, as well as facility repairs and maintenance and insurance. Requisitions at this time is 14%, and the total expenses, 14% of our total expenses, but the revenue is equal to the expense for budgeting purposes at this time. There is a budgeted surplus. Municipalities cannot have a deficit budget. It is important to ensure we have a balanced or surplus budget. The surplus is used to offset unanticipated loss and assessment appeals. In comparing our conditional operating grants between 2025 budget and 2026 budget, there is an 11% increase over the 2025 budget. This does include grant adjustments in economic development. Please note that some grants listed here are supporting programs expensed that will occur only if successful in receiving the grant. Now we'll look at the 2026 operating budget by the three funding categories: taxation, utilities, and land, and compare it to the 2025 budget. Here it is easy to see the municipal tax increase is 2.7% between 25 and 26. User fees are outlined here by fund. Although we're not proposing an increase in the fees at this point, adjustments for actuals and utility revenues, in particular water and wastewater, have been completed. There are some accounting changes impacting some lines. The first one is tax user fees increased by $300,000 due to recoding of recreation revenue that was some recreational revenue that was recorded under rentals. The second one is government transfers for operating. In 2026, government transfers totaled $9.3 million. This combines three lines in 2025 budget: the government transfers for operating of $1 million, other governments of $5.7, and other local boards and agencies for $1.7 in 2025. The three total $8.5 million to support an increase of 10%. Fine revenue was adjusted to be more realistic. Licenses and permits, no change. Franchise and concession contracts increased due to the change in the Fortis electricity increase from 4.7 to 6.7%. Plus, it includes annual increase from the franchise holders for consumption and their own rate riders. Rentals and leases are reduced $369,000, partly due to the medical clinic rent and moving some recreational revenue from rentals to user fees for better counting purposes. Our transfers from reserves is broken down between the funds, totaling approximately $1.5 million, as I previously mentioned. Overall, our revenue is increasing $889,213 to support an increase in expenses, as we stated before. This slide shows our transfers from reserves by department and by function. Transferring from reserves are used to support one-time initiatives, special projects, or uncertain expenses that may arise during the year. Budgeting for these items ensures that funding is available if needed. A good example is the intermunicipal development plan, for which $100,000 has been allocated. 50% by reserves, 50% from the Alouette County. If the county approves the project, we proceed. If not, the reserve draw is withheld. This approach helps maintain a reasonable tax rate for residents while ensuring the municipality is prepared to undertake important work. Note, we are reducing our draw from operating reserves from 2.1 million in 2025 to 1.5 in 2026. This slide shows our operating expenses by funds. It breaks down our expenses transparently, so it's evident that our revenues for utility user fees support our related expenses. It is easy to see that most of our debt currently falls in the utility funds and is supported by utility user fees, not tax dollars. Land division costs reflect a speculative sale as well as includes funds for creating a Hillendale prospectus package and some expenses towards promoting sale of lands and maintaining vacant property. This slide shows our annual transfers to reserves based on our new reserve policy. It demonstrates that we're maintaining our contribution to reserves similar to previous years. This slide shows our capital projects. Administration has proposed in the 2026 budget as well as the funding sources required to support the project. A total of 57.9 million of projects were originally requested for capital. 39 million is the YCE multiplex. Of that total, the capital projects were prioritized based on studies, assessments, reports, regulatory requirements, as well as if there is funding available to support the project. Note that while 5.5 million was reduced from the original ask, not all of the projects appear below the line. For instance, building maintenance was reduced from over 2.45 million to 1 million based on the most critical needs and funding available to support it. Note, water degas upgrade and A6 sanitary sewer line replacement is underfunded at this point. We have put a placeholder as debentures. However, it is our hope to receive grant funding or debentures as there is not enough reserves to support it at this time. Building maintenance projects and fleet capital purchases are further detailed in the next two slides. However, I would like to pass the mic to general managers and the CAO to do a quick review of the capital projects, starting with environmental. I'll pass it to General Manager Kitlitz.
So just before we get to Mr. Kitlitz, there's a lot of information to digest there. First, do we have any questions for Ms. McDonald at this point before we delve into capital? Oh, goody, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So what I'll do is I think I'm spread over all of the list here, but I'll go through all mine and then I'll pass it on to whoever GM wants to go next. So starting at the top, the wastewater treatment plant. This is a regulatory upgrade to our wastewater treatment plant for 2026. It's the design work for that project with construction planned for 2027. I was going to check this before I came in today and I forgot, but we do have a regular requirement to have that work finished. I think we got a 1-year extension, so I believe it's 2029 now that we have to have that work done according to our license from the province. The second one is another regulatory project, the water degas upgrade, which includes fluoride removal at the treatment plant on Ansel Tower Road, right at the west end of town. Again, right now we're going through design and a pilot project just started today to test reverse osmosis treatment for this, which is the best way to remove fluoride. And that'll give us a bit more detail for our final design and construction for 2026. It's a big one. We will be searching for grants for this one, but it is another regulatory upgrade that must be done. A6 sanitary sewer line replacement is a single trench replacement of sanitary sewer pipe upgrades along 48th Street between 1st Ave and 5th Ave. that also is needed. This was on the project plan last year, if council recalls, and we deferred it to this year. It will need to be done though, 2026 to support the opening of the YC multiplex. 4th Street and 2nd Avenue. This is specific to replacing 5 sanitary manholes and 5 water valves on 4th Ave and 2nd Ave between 48th Street and 50th Street. This is sort of to get ahead of the project that the province is doing to do some overlay on our highway through town. We'd like to get these cleaned up before they do that work, so we don't have to be ripping up that asphalt a year or two later if these assets fail. We went and inspected all those assets along the highway and determined that these were the 5 or 10 assets that were in the worst shape, and we should probably do right away, if possible, in advance of that work by the province. And Mr. Mayor, I'll just say if council wants to stop me to ask specific questions about any of these while I go through them, please do. I'll continue to plow through them unless I get a question.
Thank you. Councillor Chachka.
Thanks, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz. For the projects that you just mentioned and the grants in the blue column there, is that, can you just clarify the grant? Is that like provincial funding grant, like our normal LGFF or MSI, whatever they call it now? Or is that something above and beyond that?
I'm going to defer over to Mrs. McDonald to be specific. I'm not 100%.
Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Chachka. I believe we are using Alberta Municipal Wastewater Management, AWWP grant, it's called, for both those projects, I believe.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so just further to Councillor Chachka's question, so we have not been successful in those grant streams, or have we received approval for those grants, or those grants that we are going to be applying for? Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
We have been successful in the AMWWP grant. However, we are submitting an amendment to that application in order to cover more of the application, and we have not received the response to that on that to date.
And that grant is specific to which project?
Go ahead. Okay, Mr. Mayor, it's both for the wastewater treatment plant as well as the water degas.
Okay.
The water degas, we did receive a little bit of funding. I think it's in the $400,000 range, I believe. But obviously now the project's $5.5 million. We're hoping to get more.
No doubt. So follow-up question: $420,000 just for design for a wastewater treatment plant that we built 7 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes. We're finding it's about 10% of the project now for design work, and so it's around a $4.5 million project.
All right. Continue on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So next on the list was annual water valve and maintenance replacements. So this was initially when our managers brought forward the budget, it was in our operating. What we found, Mr. Mayor and Council, is that, and you may recall, a lot of the capital work we've been doing over the last couple of years on our local roads, our contractors come out to isolate a water valve for a project, and the valve ends up not working, and we have to replace it. So it ends up going over to operating, and utilities departments has managed to take care of those, but it happens just about every year we're running into this. So we're using this as an opportunity when those come to our attention that we have some funding available to replace those manholes and those water valves rather than depending on any extra we have in our operating for that. So that's what that is. Next one on my list, sorry, West Haven rink replacement. This is a project to totally replace the West Haven outdoor rink, which would include new boards, hard surface that will allow the rink to be used both in the summer and the winter, accessible pathways, lighting, and a picnic area. This is a project that was in collaboration with the Community Engagement Action Team. So I think that's one that's on the plate for this summer.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz. With that project, and I see that we do have access to grants, Was there talk, and I remember I try to remember in the seat presentation that they are also trying to access private funding as well, or sponsorships. Was that taken into consideration, or is that something we're looking at in terms of funding that project?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Taylor. So based on the budget request form, yes, there is a portion of that they're hoping to get from local business contributions towards that. I don't know.
Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Just to clarify, that column where we would get additional funds from outside sources would fall under other local governments and boards. Third party. Thank you for the question.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz. Do we have a plan then moving forward to also do the other community rink in the community? Like we've done, Glenwood now has a nice renovated space with hard surfacing, and now we have West Haven being done, and then we have another one over in the old Tiffin area.
Yep. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Pisichny. Yeah, I'll say yes, that on our 5-year capital plan, we have both. And I can't remember the years off the top of my head, but they are on the plan. Griffiths Park upgrade is there, as well as the Tiffin Community Rink is on that list. So they're on the plans. You're welcome. Columbarium, this is at the cemetery. Council may recall last year we had this on the capital plan. It was decided to split it into two, so we did order that. We put down the deposit of $40,000. It's been ordered, and we will receive it this year. So this is the second payment for that columbarium of $40,000. Tennis and pickleball court rehab. This is to redo the surface of our existing tennis court adjacent just east of the library. Fencing and lighting will stay the same. This is basically just the surface, a new surface, and then obviously painting lines for both pickleball and tennis at that location.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz, to administration. I'm happy to see this included. I have spoken to some of the users out there, and I'm not a user, so I didn't know any issues out there. And they said, "Why don't you go have a look?" And I went and had a look, and we put a lot of crack sealer on there, and it's like a sea of white now. It doesn't look good. It looks horrible. So I'm happy to see that on there. When we're looking at resurfacing, are we consulting with the user groups as well about this? Again, I'm not a user, so I want to make sure that they're happy. And if we're doing this right. If we're missing something, if there's benches they want added and things like that to enhance that space, this is the time to kind of do this if we're going to do it. I would hate to see us sort of do it, not consult with the user groups, and miss anything out. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reply to that is yes. We will be consulting with the user groups on the final design for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the list, Mr. Mayor, is the trail replacement and new lighting. This is on a couple sections of trail that extend from Hillendale around through the trees north of the school sites and soccer fields, and then also the piece that runs sort of south and adjacent to the soccer fields and coming out at 46th Street, I believe. This also was a project that was on the list last year that got deferred for other priorities. It includes lighting along those trails, as well as some trail replacement repairs where it's really in rough shape. So I believe the lighting is quoted around $150,000, and the rest will be used to repair a trail and realign trail that's damaged.
Councillor Chachka.
Thanks, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz. So I'm just trying to imagine what you just said there with your description. Does this include the more narrower section of trail that kind of, I'll say if it starts on Edson Drive and there's that little parking lot there where people start from there and then continue on the paved path up until it comes to a T, which is then a wider section of the trail?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's you're going to challenge my recollection. I don't believe it goes all the way to Edson Drive, the design or the drawings we got for trail replacement. There is a large section along that segment, but I'm not sure specifically, so I'll have to get back to you on the specific extents of that, but I'm not sure it includes that or not.
Can I follow up? Okay, through the chair to council and administration, I would challenge everyone to go take a walk on that trail, park on Edson Drive, that parking lot, and then walk to the T. I think that might, well, some of it might be the original asphalt. It's definitely come through in quite a few spots, but it was pretty thin to begin with, and then the roots don't help anything, and it is a lot narrower compared to the, I guess, the newer design of the width of the trails. I know that it's in pretty rough shape. I don't know if that's something that can be included. Yeah, some spots are pretty, are like little pump tracks, so. But there has been some effort put into some repairs on it, but I'm guessing it probably needs a full rehab with whatever that looks like.
Mr. Mayor, and just to Councillor Chaska, so I may just be not remembering exactly, or just your visual of your description, we may be just off. So, but we'll look into it and we'll confirm. We do have drawings for it, so we'll be able to share later for sure.
Councillor Pasechny?
Yeah, through the mayor to GM Kitlitz. The lighting for that trail, is that something we can fund out of our energy reserve?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I don't know that we've considered that as an energy reserve project at this point. I think funding for that is, where am I on my list here? Am I at?
It appears it's coming out of revenue sharing.
Revenue sharing. So we do have some other projects that we're proposing to fund out of the energy reserve. I do know that'll come later, I think, from GM Hawkins. So I guess it's potential, but at this point we haven't recommended that.
Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, through the mayor to all of council, I concur with Councillor Chachka. I just went on the Terry Fox run with Councillor Chernard on the 5K walk, and that trail needs a lot of work. Question to Mr. Kitlitz, the lighting will go the entire distance between Hillendale and 46. Is that the vision in that? And like in terms of post, I don't know how far like lighting goes or how far you can stretch it. How many lights are we kind of looking in terms of?
I do think we're getting a little bit into the weeds here on
That
this.
may be into the weeds.
Yeah.
I don't have those.
That's fair enough.
CO Beveridge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to council, we will have to come back to you on this particular project. We don't have all of the information in order to support being able to provide an educated response, and I would really like to have that opportunity to do so.
All right, continue, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's find my place. I'll skip Fleet because I'll talk about it in a minute, but I'm going to skip past that one because there is another slide that gets to Fleet, but I'll come back to that one. 51st Street, First Ave, and 2nd Ave rehab. This is again in relation to the highway project. I think it was 3 years ago we did some storm work on 51st Street that ended in a manhole just north of 2nd Ave. So this is an extension of that work all the way down to First Ave, which kind of ties in and relates a little bit to the First Ave upgrades as well. This project includes both storm sewer, water line replacement, and rehab of the curb and sidewalk and asphalt, I believe. And again, we'd like to get that done in advance of the highway going through. So that's why that one's been advanced up the list on the capital plan. 54th Street and 2nd Ave intersection upgrades. This is a project that again came to us a couple of years ago when Pivotal opened up. As part of their traffic impact assessments, the province asked for an upgrade to that intersection. We talked them into kind of deferring a bit until we knew more about the highway projects. So again, we'll want to get that completed. The design's complete. We'll want to get that done in advance of the highway work. So that's that project.
Councillor Trotchka?
Thanks, through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz. That intersection upgrade, would it still be required if we have the other township road completed? Like if we were to kind of reassess that, would that still be a requirement if trucks are then now going through a different way or different route, I guess, to get to that location? Would it still trigger the same upgrade?
Go
Hey,
ahead,
Mr. Mayor?
Rollins.
That's a really good question. I think I brought that up in one of the meetings with Alberta Transportation, like when they first sort of put it on us. I believe the answer was still yes. And you know, we're still a ways away from having Township Road 552 open. So
We also have the consideration of the bridge as well, so the trucks won't necessarily be able to cross until that bridge gets replaced. So, go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Chachka, no matter what, that intersection is still in very rough shape. And I'd still like to proceed with it because it's a communal road on the way to the landfill, and it's in a lot of rough shape.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Through the mayor to Mr. Kidlitz here. On that 54th Street there, I was at a meeting there with Synergy Group and that, and Pivotal now is running 24/7 trucks a day there now. So that street is gonna get a lot more traffic on it and everything else, and they know that we are working with them and with the government to try to upgrade it as best we can. So I'm hoping that somebody gets a hold of the government before they start doing all their planning and saying, you know what, we're gonna have another 40 more trucks on this road going down there, so I'd like them to, beef it up as best they can.
All right, continue, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you. The last one I have before I go to Fleet is Second Ave storm crossing replacement. Again, this is related to the Highway 16 overlays on Second Ave, specifically at 52nd Street, which I believe is Best Western crossing, 49th Street at the Home Hardware, and then 45th at Independent, where we have those shallow storms that create speed bumps on the highway. This project just is simply dropping the depth of those storm pipes and putting a drop manhole on the other side, just as a temporary measure to get those buried deeper so that we don't again overlay the highway and have a speed bump develop a year later. So those 3 crossings have been included for this year.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kitlitz. You just said temporary, like, what are we talking temporary? 20-year temporary, or? Because if we're just gonna have a problem in 2 years, then we better do this right, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a good question. Maybe a poor choice of words. So, obviously, part of our storm system is upgrading First Ave as well as the Wasp Creek project. So this just creates a drop manhole on the south side where they'll fill up and then it'll come to the level of the existing pipe and drain into the creek. Once that bottom end infrastructure is done and lowered, then we can come in and put a pipe at the correct elevation. So they'll function. It just sort of works as sort of a wet well and then drains.
So we're preparing for future upgrades. All right,
Exactly.
that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I do appreciate the assessments that were done this summer in order to prepare us for this. Just so council is aware, we are looking at arranging a meeting with Alberta Transportation at Alberta Munis to discuss this project as a whole and how we coordinate the various aspects of rehabilitation of both municipal and provincial infrastructure. So that work is currently underway. Certainly very exciting. It is the #1 capital project for this region, for the regional district. So hopefully we'll see that continue on. So thanks for that, and thanks for the staff for the work on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so finally, I think if Mr. Donnelly can
Councillor,
sorry.
Councillor
Apologies.
Chachka.
Through the chair to Mr. Kitlitz, I just want to echo what the mayor said. Thanks for bringing all those highway projects forward before the highway's built. My only comment is I just didn't realize they'd be so expensive. So, thanks.
Councillor Taylor.
I echo also what is said. I will say I'm actually surprised it wasn't more projects, to be honest. And I do look forward to meeting with the province. This is of course a lot of money for this municipality, and this is a large project. But if the province can help us out with this, then I think we should have those discussions at that time.
All right, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think my final item on the list is the fleet and equipment. So the slide on the screen outlines what we have planned for 2026. You'll notice that the Durango Unit V161 is on this list twice. First off is buying out of the current lease. It's the white Durango that we have here at the Civic Center. This was about meeting the needs of user groups and repurposing the vehicle. The CD team, I think they're using a half-ton truck right now. This serves their purposes much better. So the idea is that we'll buy out that lease and repurpose that vehicle to the community development team, and then we'll replace that unit for here at Civic Center. So that's why it's on there twice. The next 3 are the tandem dump trucks. Now it says here replace. That's a little misleading. So these are existing leases that we're going to that will be bought out at the end of this, they terminate this year, so, sorry, in 2026, we'll buy them out. And we'll keep those units, and we'll run them for, they're very low mileage units, so we're gonna run those for another 3 to 4 to 5 years, as long as we can, before we look at replacing those units. So this is not necessarily replacing right now, it's about buying out the rest of those leases and keeping running those units, so. And on our long-term equipment and fleet plan, we'll plan those out a bit further down the road for replacement. And then there's 2 half-ton trucks up for replacement. They're both 2009 vintage, and these aren't designated for any one specific user. These are just sort of in the fleet that are used for summer students and other projects of the public works fleet. And I think, and the last one, sorry, the Komatsu loader broom for the airport. Loader's in great shape. The broom gets used quite a bit, and it has lots of moving parts, and it's worn out. So there's a replacement there, and this one is a cost share with Yellowhead County. I think that's all of them.
Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
Through the mayor to Mr. Kitlitz, thank you for clarifying the dump trucks. I've seen the 78,000. But I am pleased, even though the age of the trucks, they, 0 mileage an hour is like, and I agree with your plan, they could run for another 5-6 years in our town, so just a comment on that.
Just to GM Kitlitz on the half-ton trucks and the vehicles, 75,000 for a half-ton is pretty expensive for a fleet truck for the town, so I'm just wondering how you came up with those budget amounts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the question. I guess what my response to that is our fleet supervisor and manager submitted these budget requests based on their research. So that's what they've provided as estimates, and I don't know if I have the expertise to challenge that. So.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Administration has done a review of fleet internal charges, and so we are charging departments for the use of the equipment on an annual basis. That money is then forwarded to the reserve for the replacement of the equipment. So if in event like 75,000 is too high and we spend 60,000, we only draw 60,000 out of the reserve. It is all funded from that fleet reserve, not tax rate increase.
And what is the threshold for us having to go through Tilma?
$75,000, and construction is now, used to be 200, but I think it's 300 and something now.
All right, thank you.
I think that's it for my list, Mr. Mayor.
All right, which GM wants to go next? GM Hawken, you're on the hot seat.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, we have the building maintenance detailed plan, but I'm gonna get Steve to pull up. I wanted to give you guys a understanding of how we got here. So in 2023, we completed the facility life cycle. Thanks, Steve. We completed the facility life cycle assessment, which covered our 17 main town facilities. Out of the 17, 2 of them are in strong shape. This is due to, we just built the library and we are currently upgrading the leisure center due to YCE. The other 15 were rated poor, fair, or critical. So we needed a way to prioritize all the work that was identified within that life cycle assessment. So the current state, this is kind of the 1-page summary that I got our manager of facilities to create, which is ranked based on priority of services, priority of the condition of it, and then a criteria list that I will explain further down below of how we determined what is high need versus what is low need. So we had to create some sort of criteria around where do we start when we have all of this work to do right now. What are our next steps? So therefore, we had to create a matrix that we're going to use consistently year over year to help make decisions on what facilities and what projects need to be done immediately versus what can wait. So first is the building envelope. So this is highest priority. We need this or else we're going to lose the structure of the facility. So this is walls, roofs, things of that nature. Second is mechanical and electrical. This is to maintain operations. So electrical speaks for itself, mechanical is HVAC, heaters, all that kind of stuff. Third, safety and operational. When I say safety there, I mean facility safety, not life safety. So life safety is within priority 1 and 2. Facility safety talks around handrails, talking around guarding of certain equipment, that kind of stuff. So that's that medium priority. And then fourth is aesthetics. So making our buildings look better, that gets deferred last. So based on that ranking, or based on that criteria, we created a ranking of top 5, middle 5, and bottom 7. So based on this, we brought forward an initial budget to SLT to go over capital projects, which totaled $2.45 million. So if you scroll down a little more, Steve. Keep going, keep going, keep going. There we go. So this gives us a nice 5-year snapshot based on that facility life cycle assessment of the costs that are going to need to happen to our facilities to keep them functional and operational. So 2026 was 2.5, 27 was just over $1 million, 28 was 1.4 million, so on. However, we don't have unlimited funds. So what do we do next? So if you scroll down more, Steve, we had to look at what can we afford. So unfortunately, we are not able to use debentures for this type of work because it is not new capital. It is repairing our current infrastructure. Therefore, we had to look at reserves. So SLT looked at, well, where could us putting the facility fixes into what reserves? So the two main ones were general government and energy. And that is because we don't have a set aside facility reserve. So therefore, when looking at what we had in those two reserves, we came to a dollar figure of around we could do $1 million this year without completely depleting both of those two reserves. So we then had to refine the list. So starting with that 2.45 million, we brought it down to $1 million, and we grouped it with the highest risk projects. And then we also did like group work to try and save more dollars, like bundling various roof projects together for 4 different facilities. Lastly, we tried to align it with the strategic plan. So this ties into the energy piece of, we asked which projects where we're replacing, could we do some sort of energy initiative as well to help with future cost savings and support Pillar 3 of the strategic plan. Therefore, about half of the facility capital requests are funded from the energy reserve, half are through the general government. And therefore, the final package, 1.029 million, with a focus on the building envelope, so that is the structural piece, as well as the mechanical reliability and public safety. The medium and low priorities were deferred to future years. So if you scroll down to the last page, this is what we're going to talk about today. So we have it broke out between the 14 different projects that are proposed through the 2026 capital budget, differentiating which ones are dedicated to the energy reserve and which ones are dedicated to the general. So out of the, we can start with the energy side. So the first is the Civic Center. So this is our air distribution and HVAC replacements. So there are 9 rooftop units that need to be replaced within this building and have been identified, which is how we were able to put it, or we're identifying energy reserve to go to this. This is because we have an ability to find some energy efficiencies when replacing those HVAC units. The museum, this is a smaller amount, 4,800. This is hot water heaters that need to be replaced. We have an ability to find more energy efficient hot water heaters. Fire hall, this is the building envelope with a focus on finding better energy efficient windows, as well as improving the exterior. The specifics on that I can pull up here. Sorry, I went outside of my own order for some reason, but, okay, so this one is repairing brick and metal cladding, flashing and joint sealers, as well as the exterior windows to protect the building structure from water damage, corrosion, and energy loss. So that is the description at a high level. And the medical center is electrical replacement. That's, then moving on to the general, starting with the public works facility. This is mechanical, air distribution, and electrical distribution. So there's a lot of mechanical and electrical work that needs to happen in that facility. The Civic Center, this is also doing roof repairs and building envelope, as well as Kinsman's roof and the airport roof. And then I believe we have one more. Oh no, we don't have another roof. So those are our 3 big roof ones. The medical center is emergency lighting replacement to get to code, as this is a public safety issue. And moving to the museum, we have 30,000 for fire alarm replacement, as this ties back to public safety. We are currently doing work on it this year, but this is just to further, let me explain in detail. So this is a one-time service level change. So the safety codes officer compliance inspection identified that the museum fire alarm is not installed to safety code requirements. The system is sprinklered and needs to be monitored. Therefore, it needs to be corrected and identified that the fire alarm needs to be verified, which is the work that we're doing this year. However, during the course of verifications, devices failed, and we no longer can find replacements due to the years that it was installed. Therefore, this would be replacing that fire alarm system so it can monitor, do sprinklers, and be replacing the current infrastructure that's in there right now. The Schramm House demo. So this is due to a public safety concern of there is an ability to access that house, and we have no way to block it off. So there's an access into the basement. And now So it was purchased several years ago. No, we don't need to know that. So the structure flooded, and therefore we had to turn off all the utilities. But over the last 2 years, the house has now became contaminated with black mold. The residence was already in a state of disrepair due to recent contaminations, and the basement is now exposed to the elements. So that is the piece that pushes this to, we should do this next year or this upcoming year. Because of the current state of inside that house, it's obviously not safe in there due to the mold. It's not safe because it's gotten broken into multiple times. And then the access into the basement. So we can we try and block off that basement, and then people continue to break into that basement. So we have a life safety thing. If someone breaks in there and then hurts or something happens along those lines, that is the risk that we have at this time. Councillor Chosh.
Would Councillor Chachka?
Thanks. Through the chair to Mr. Hawken. Can you just remind us where the Schramm House is located in the community? Is that the one by the fire hall? The Catholic Church. Oh, okay, which is by the fire hall. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Schnard?
Through the mayor to Hawkins, Mr. Hawkins, I was trying to, I like the idea of the savings, but when you brought up the Schramm House, that triggered something. So any of the buildings we're saving on today, because like I said, you had 2.5, we're only doing 1, are any of them buildings in risk to be similar? So if we don't fix them now, is it gonna cost us more later?
Through the chair, to answer your question, we will not lose the facility if we do not do it next year. But to answer the question of will it cost more later, the answer is a high likelihood of yes. However, it's balancing what we currently have in reserves to what is the highest priority right now.
Counselor Pasicny.
Yeah, through the mayor to GM Hawkins. In the $40,000 budget to remove the Schramm House, does that include removing that curb cut that's in front of it?
That I will have to get back to you.
Can I use it for fire training? Counselor Moore.
Yes, from the mayor to Mr. Hawken, you have museum listed on there twice. Is that both the Galloway or is there the red brick there too?
Through the chair, that is for Galloway. Both are for Galloway.
Thank you.
CO Beveridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to council, absolutely, we explored that option to have our fire department do training, et cetera, but given the new requirements and with regards to the age of the home, it's more of a risk actually to deal with in that fashion. That was our first opportunity, our first thing that we explored. It's unfortunate that the lack of maintenance is causing for us to have to demolish a home in the community, but this is the reality, and with the life safety risk, it is one that is something that's very important.
Thank you. Continue on, Mr. Hawken.
And the last two are, first is at Kinsman Park. So this is doing joint sealing on the building envelope at Kinsman Park, just over 4,000. And then at the food bank, there's been electrical work that has been identified that needs to be replaced. So if you look at the grand totals splitting out, it's roughly 528,000 from the energy reserve and 500,000 from the general reserve, totaling the 1.029 million for facilities for 2026.
All right, any further questions for Mr. Hawkins' list? Go ahead, Counselor Trachka.
Thanks. So through the chair to Mr. Hawken, I'm not sure if you'll have this answer or not. I thought we approved the Kinsman Park roof repair on a previous capital budget. I want to say like maybe 2023. I'm certain that it was something on a capital budget at that time, and then I was surprised to see it brought up again. Unless maybe we took it off when the fires happened or something. I don't know. I don't
I think it's
remember.
just joint sealing.
It was just joint sealing?
No, like this is just joint sealing. Is there,
Well, it just says roof repairs, so that's,
oh, roof repair building, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hawken.
I'm just pulling up the specifics on it, but it is for the joint ceiling, but. I can answer the specifics of what's happening is the original flat wooded beam roof was retrofitted with a modern slope system supported by pre-engineered wood trusses and plywood decking. It was then finished off with shingles. However, the vetted metal soffits line the overhangings, and while the underlying original flat roof structure remains visible beneath the trusses, the shingles will require placement within the first 5-year facility life cycle period. So an engineer who knows a lot more about roofs did an assessment on this and used words that I will not be able to describe to you what they actually are, but I am trusting that they know what they're talking about, and they're telling us that we need to do this joint sealing and minor roof repair, but we're not replacing the entire roof.
And I think, as I mentioned off mic here, I think the roof that we did do was the Scout Shack, if I recall correctly. Counselor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor, to council and Mr. Hawken, thank you for that uplifting scenario that you gave in terms of our facilities, but I'm happy to see us moving forward with that. Of course, we did that study on our facilities, and we're moving forward to address some of these issues. It's not a nice thing, to use Councillor Chachka's words. These are not sexy things, but these are necessities that we have to do. I like the idea of using the energy reserve as well. How much money is in the energy reserve right now? That probably question is for Mrs. McDonald. Oh, sorry, I missed that. No, not in terms of how much that is. How much is? Oh, it says the balance there. Oh, my apologies. Missed that.
Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Yeah.
You'll see on your reserve sheets that we have an expected balance after 2026 of 179,000 approximately.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Mr. Hawken? Go ahead, Councillor Bevan.
Through the chair to Mr. Hawkins and that, on the Shram House and that, on previous council here, I can't remember when it was, when we decided we were gonna take over or buy the Shram House, the Catholic Church at one time expressed interest in wanting to buy the land off us. We demolish this. Is that still a process we can go through? They want to have more parking. They don't have enough there now.
Sorry, Councillor Bevan, I don't think that's a budget question.
Yeah, you're right.
Councillor Pisichny.
I was just gonna speak to that, but it's,
Duly noted. There might be a land buyer, but we'll move on. Who's next?
Mayor, sorry, I still have one more thing.
Okay,
on
go ahead, Mr.
Can we
Hawken.
flip back to the budget or the presentation? It is one more back. There we go. We have 50,000 for signage maintenance. So this is budget to replace 5 to 10 of our facility signs throughout the community. So the Civic Center, the airport, the spray park, the landfill, the Sandy dump. This ties back to the beautification strategy of the strategic plan and taking pride in our community. We have signs that we don't even know how old they are. We're guessing in the 20-year mark. And it's time for us to get some consistency of what our signage looks like, match our branding, and tie into the beautification piece of the strategic plan, which is where the 50,000 comes from. Again, if we can find nice signs for cheaper, we're hoping not to spend the whole 50, but just based off of, we've replaced a couple in the past couple years, and they come around that $5,000 to $10,000 mark right now, unfortunately. So that is how we landed on 50 grand for that capital replacement.
Thank you, and that's your final item? We don't have any plans of rebranding, right? Okay, good. Sounds like something government would do. Go ahead.
That comes when you get ugly so that's.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you know your branding.
Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I will move us forward to the 5-year, oopsie, forgot the CAO.
CAO, you have projects too? There's no more money left.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, CO Beveridge.
Mr. Mayor, through to council, I am covering community and protective services at this time, so there are projects. I'm happy to report executive office has no projects to report on tonight, this evening. Just let me get organized, 1 second.
So we'll go through your list and then we will break for dinner.
Okay. 1 moment. Thank you for your patience.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know. I'm just between you and dinner. This is.
Are we done yet?
Just remember that when the questions come, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. So to start off, I'm going to start with protective services, so the enforcement computer replacement. So that is essentially 3 computers for the fleet vehicles, to update those. There's a need to have our officers in their vehicles and working more efficiently and have access to be able to deal with things on the go. That's essentially what that is. They also have the GIS component in it as well, so we know where our officers are and they're able to pull up more information. It's just moving along with the requirements and that they need to do their job more effectively in this community. The next item is body-worn cameras. This is a safety matter for our officers. It's no different than the RCMP. And when we're dealing with complaints and we're dealing with issues with residents, et cetera, and also to protect our officers, this is why this is also in here. We did have this in last year, but we deferred it, and this year we've put it on as a priority. Bunker gear. This allows for our fire department to have another set of bunker gear. When it comes to safety of our fire department and the health and wellness, it's incredibly important to ensure that they have the ability to change out bunker gear if they have a fire from one day to the next, etc. When they're able to wash their gear. It's something right now that is an issue where potentially they may not wash their gear and then put it on, and potentially, as we know, there's the carcinogens, et cetera, that we want to try to prevent our firefighters from having health issues in the future. The next item is fire hose. So there is fire hose in this budget. What we have found with fire hose, we've done a lot of work, just like in all of the other areas, to assess what we have for equipment. And this is something, clearly, it's an essential piece of equipment that we have fire hose that is ancient. That you wouldn't want us to have to utilize it. I mean, I'm not raising a flag that we're not able to deal with things in an effective, efficient manner for our fire department at this moment. However, there is fire hose that we have that needs to be replaced in order to effectively protect our community. And it's essential. You'll see this in the future budgets consistently, so it's a maintenance item essentially. We need to ensure we keep this up and going. Foam. This is an item where we have the ability with our truck to use to foam, but we've never actually done so. This is to essentially put foam in our truck to be able to utilize it when the need arises. There's only, I'm not a firefighter, but I understand from my fire department that this is an opportunity for them to efficiently and more effectively fight fire as the need arises when foam is required.
So through SCO Beverage and acting GM of Protective and Community Services, why is that a capital budget item and not part of the operations of the
Great
fire
question.
department? Go ahead, Denise McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, for the question. So a number of accounting changes we're instituting and reviewing the tangible capital assets policy. So our current threshold is 10,000 approximately, because it's different for different types of assets. We have purposely put forward a lot of items to the capital to protect the operating budget from fluctuating tax rate increases. And we've put it in here with an eye towards what should those levels be when we bring that tangible capital asset policy back. In fact, this particular one, foam, could be an inventory one and not necessarily even be on the list at all. We would end up expensing it and putting it into inventory, and then it would come back and be expensed in the event that they use it and replace it. So we felt it was important to highlight it and have the conversation. We may change it before it comes to council in November.
All right, thank you. Continue, Sue Beveridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My computer's frozen, just so everyone knows. If I'm not able to, I'll do my best. Anyway.
We don't have a new computer for you, so I'm just saying.
I just got, it's all good. Mini Mark pumps. So these pumps are actually in the event that we have fires in our more challenging areas to react to, say, those outside fires that we react to in the wooded areas where there potentially is a creek. These pumps would allow us to not have to drag all of our hose into the area and be able to fight those fires a little more quickly if the need arose and it was just small enough that we could deal with it. Seek thermal monitoring of the fire hall. So you'll see that item. What the situation is the fire hall has an immense amount of high-value access, and we actually don't have monitoring in the way that we maybe could, could prevent from potential for a fire in the fire hall. It can happen, and that's based on the batteries, I believe, that are also, yeah. So this is why I'm not able to access my computer at the moment. So I'm going to do my best here. Essentially, what this would do is to alert that we would have a fire sooner. And thermal imaging would alert the system to be able to then deal with the fire more quickly. And the next item is the Seek Fire Pro 30 thermal cameras, and essentially that allows for our fire department to see in the dark when they're entering some of our commercial properties or residential properties to be able to more safely access and save lives. The next item, and I'm going quickly, but I assume there'll be questions, is a CCAN container. One of the situations with our fire hall, it is a hall that we have a lot of equipment in, as I just mentioned. We see an opportunity to have some storage actually in the back behind the fire hall to be able to actually safely store some of the things that we use for training, etc. And just utilize our space a little more effectively. When you walk through our fire hall, and I know that council is all attended at one point or another, sometimes for events, they're pulling all that stuff out, and you're walking through. There's quite a bit of equipment stored along the alleyway, I would say. I don't really know if that's the correct word, but essentially it comes to the fact that it's more effective to store things that they're maybe not using all the time, but also safely storing things outside in a CCAN. This is another item that we deferred from last year that we brought forward again for this year's for consideration. And just to note, last year there were $5,000. This year it's $11,000. So that just shows you just the increase of cost of things. When you talk about deferring things, sometimes we typically see the next year the cost is greater. And I believe that concludes my items for Community and Protective Services.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
If there's no further questions on the Protective Services area, I would beg Council's forgiveness to go through 2 more slides, and there's a natural stop after the capital highlights.
Okay, sure thing. Just a question through to CO Beverage. Are we zoned for a storage container in that area? Like a serious question. Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we weren't with the first version of the land use bylaw, but the amendments we just did added institutional uses to allow for shipping.
Thinking ahead, were you? All right, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
This 5-year capital plan was previously provided to council this spring. In reality, this is a tool that helps us better understand the infrastructure funding gap. It presents the town's 5-year capital plan by asset category. In 2026, the 2026 column has been updated to reflect the proposed capital plan introduced tonight, and the green area represents our typical funding sources available to us, including the local government fiscal framework and the Canadian Community Building Fund, CCBF, grants. It also incorporates potential allocations from Fleet Equipment Reserve and a reasonable allocation from our general capital reserves. By comparing these funding sources against our capital needs, we have identified a potential infrastructure deficit. Over the 5-year period, we currently are projecting an cumulative infrastructure funding shortfall of approximately $43.6 million. I want to emphasize this is a planning tool, and we will continue to refine the plan to ensure it's realistic and achievable. The plan clearly demonstrates that our infrastructure funding challenges are not isolated to one single year. They are systemic and require sustained strategic attention. With that, the capital highlights slide identifies the capital projects originally requested total $57.9 million. The list did not include 2025 capital carry forward projects into 26 that'll be brought forward at a later date. Projects were evaluated and reduced to $52.4 million of funded capital projects. The remaining projects have been deferred to future years. With that, I'll pass it back to Mayor for questions.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation and all your hard work on this. So just to loop back to the maintenance program on the buildings, I think, it just speaks to this administration's focus on good planning and understanding where we're at as an organization, which I think has been missing for a long, long time. These numbers are scary, but we wouldn't know this information if administration didn't do the work to plan this out for us to start tackling some of these issues. You see time and time again in different municipalities where buildings collapse because they just don't have any clue of how bad the situation is. So this is we are being reactive, but we're also being proactive at the same time by trying to tackle these things and ensuring that we are doing better maintenance. And we've seen that with our roads this year with the infrastructure, the equipment that we purchased to enhance road maintenance, and that'll pay off as we go down into the future. This capital budget is very daunting. We've had total highway upgrade projects, I think over $2 million listed here, which means some things have had to be cut that were originally planned in the 2025 budget to happen in 2026. I guess through administration, I don't know if you have a list of what was originally planned when we looked at our 5-year capital plan and what is no longer listed in 2026. 7th Avenue comes to mind, which is, for me, is a very big disappointment, but we can only do so much work. So I don't know if you have that information or if that could be brought forward at a future meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Kitlitz.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I don't have that right here, but absolutely we can provide that information of what was on last year's capital plan for 2026 compared to this year. We can do that comparison. Yep.
Thank you for that. And I thank Ms. McDonald as well for the reserve balances. When you go to our website, it is sometimes hard to find some of this information. I'm wondering if the reserve balance sheet after this meeting can be put on our website so the public has easier access to it in the financial area, because I was trying to find this and I couldn't find it for the life of me here a number of weeks ago, right? So I really appreciate if that could be uploaded online. Council, do you have any questions or comments on this? That's all you have for us right now, Ms. McDonald? All right. So we are going to break for about 30 minutes. So those that are watching online or those that are joining us in the gallery today will return at around 6:30 p.m. Thank you. I will call this meeting back to order at 6:31. And we will continue on with Ms. McDonald. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next slides are specific to our departments, which are affected by financial changes across the organization. Salary, wages, and benefits increased 7%. This includes the union collective agreement and out of scope, but it also includes increased costs for benefits, pensions, and employer contributions. These benefits costs can fluctuate more than inflation often and generally are not received till later in the year. Internal charges include fleet, building rent, labor, and have affected some departments more than others, but it is an improved plan to support our fleet replacement program. In order to find some cost savings and efficiencies, we have started some work on centralizing IT, building maintenance, office supplies, with continued focus on centralizing office equipment and furniture under the building maintenance at a later date. We will continue with reserves at 2.5% of expenses and for operating and 6% for capital. That is throughout all the departments, so I won't be repeating myself each time. General government includes internal services such as, 2 slides at the same time. General government includes internal service areas such as ledge services, Office of the CAO, IT, communications, finance, corporate services, building maintenance, HR, and the requisitions. New budget asks include, under communications, we have banner replacements of $8,000, public engagement software for $12,500, IT server replacement of $5,000, IT VoIP project organization-wide, $20,200, plus annual subscription costs of $22,080. Building maintenance has a list of various projects across the organization totaling $116,350, including majority of our facilities. Airport, cemetery, civic center, fire, food bank, Griffiths Park building, Kinsman building, landfill building, medical center, museum, public works, and soccer shack, as well as a category for miscellaneous repairs of $15,000. Under revenue, I will go to the major changes within revenue. Reduced interest income from $1.2 million to $700,000. This is to reflect the current market rate for interests on investments. HR municipal intern grant has been adjusted. And under the expense category, we have tax refunds and write-offs, which include the GPOT from the provinces back to 100%, and therefore the write-down expense has been removed, and that's a savings of $47,000. Reduced tax incentive program from $1 million to $728,000. Reduced our reserves transfers to of $1.1 million. Council includes funds to support the new council in the next 4-year term, including the strat plan and advocacy work. Under finance, for finance, IT, corporate services, building maintenance, they all include adjustments between the departments to better reflect the areas responsible for budgeting. HR is centralizing the advertising for recruitment and additional software. Under building maintenance, we have $80,000 increase to contracted services for various building maintenance projects, $65,000 increase for parts and supplies for various projects, and note the centralization of costs here result in reductions in other areas and departments. The net bottom line change here is $16,831. Under protective services
Do we just want to stop on each slide just to keep things organized here? Any questions under general government? Anybody? So I do have a question under general government. So I know we're going to be doing increased advocacy work that's proposed in the 2026 budget, which I think is very well needed. Have we done any adjustments to offset that, particularly with FCM? You know, I've attended a few, and I'm just not seeing the value that we once used to get from FCM. I'm not saying that there isn't any value, but I don't know if it's I know we're budgeting right now for every member of council to go, and that's never actually happened. So I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to maybe look at reducing the budget somewhat to help offset the cost of the increased advocacy in other areas. Do you want to take that, CO Beveridge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the question. Through our review of that particular item, as we spoke about advocacy, that's something I'd be happy to bring back for further discussion, so council then could make a final decision with regards to FCM. Because of the policy that we have in place with regards to FCM, I just want to make sure that I bring that back together.
Thank you. And just for clarity's sake, I know the policy states if budget is available. So obviously with a new council coming in next year and it being in Edmonton, it's probably more likely more people will go, but there'll be less expense because we won't have flights, et cetera. And some people may choose to stay with family or friends. So appreciate if you can bring that back for the future budget meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right.
Sorry, I'm trying to save your eyes from the sun shining in them.
Okay. I can just just stand up. Maybe we can get some shades for the, new shades for the Civic Center.
The next service area is the Protective Services Department. It includes police, fire, disaster services, community enforcement, and animal pound. And then, under the revenue category, we have a decrease of 50,000 for loss of the radar that was in 2025, and a related 450 decrease in the contracted services side, on the expense side of that. An increase of 80,000 for traffic tickets due to a change in accounting. So this is not a service level change. This is strictly accounting, where when tickets are issued, we're setting it up as to be accrued for when we collect them. We're setting up receivables for those, and that will better reflect the work the community enforcement area is doing. Under expenses, there's police contracting increase of 455,000, which is offset by a reduction in contracting for the photo radar. Disaster increase is related to municipal emergency plan update, as well as supplies for the ECC, which is the Emergency Coordination Center. Net bottom line change is 130,000 approximately. Is there questions for the protective services area?
Council, any questions for protective services? So just, I don't know if anybody has an answer to this, and probably put you on the spot, but I'm just looking at the 911 center. So we had an actual of 97,000 in 2024, a big increase in 2025, and I see that's continuing into 2026. As far as I'm aware, Yellow County has not yet had a 911 center meeting with the committee that's supposed to be meeting. You know, we're often asked questions about our budget lines. So where's the information from Yellow County as to why that 911 call center is costing $100,000 more per year? Especially when I think they're getting more contracts coming in. Is that just an increase in technology or staffing levels, or do we have any information on that?
I'm just going to pull up that item to be able to give you a little bit more information if possible. I do know that prior to GM Wagstaff leaving the organization, we were discussing the updating of the agreement. The agreement is long since expired, and it's something that I do know that we'll be working on in 2026 for sure. But that's, as far as the increase of costs, I don't have that readily available here.
If my memory serves me right, I believe there's technology redundancy required between 24 and 25, but we can collect that information and bring it back to you at a later date.
You know, you could be 100% correct following the emergencies, because I do know that they were investing into having a secondary site just in case situation occurred, which is great. I just would like the information so we know exactly what we're paying for here. It's a line item that often gets overlooked, and it is a regional area, and you know, we often get questioned on a lot of things on what we're doing, and I want to know what's going on with the 911 center, since Yellow County is a managing partner.
Transportation Services Department includes Public Works, Fleet, Road, Airport, and Engineering. New budget asks include bridge condition assessment for $45,000, road condition assessment for $70,000. Under the revenue category, Public Works was affected by the internal labor adjustments. Roads adjusted for local improvement debentures paid, and 2025 included a one-time project for sewer condition assessment and trail connection design, supported by a draw from reserves, creating a variance between the years of $357,000. Airport reduced to cost-sharing revenue as per the cost-sharing formula, and engineering includes support from reserves in 2026 to support new asks and some miscellaneous consulting on the expense side. Public Works increased for it was increased for $450,000 due to an allocation of reserves for the fleet capital purchases. And so that's our internal rent charges, where previously it supported the department, not necessarily was allocated to the fleet reserve for replacement of the equipment, and now we've made that change. Roads adjusted from 25 due to the one-time projects in 2025 for sewer condition assessment and the trail design. Engineering small increase due to one-time projects for the new ask, plus miscellaneous consulting increase slightly due to change in accounting. So historically, geotechnical testing delayed the closure of capital infrastructure projects until the warranty period had expired, in order to record the related expense. However, these costs were not capitalized. It is considered better practice to expense them through the operating budget, and therefore we've put a $25,000 increase. Net bottom line change is $473,245. Open for questions there.
Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to administration. Within this budget, we also have, it's about 100,000 for sidewalk maintenance. Is that correct?
Jim Kitlitz.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that is correct. I think it's our third or fourth year in a row for that contract and service budget line, yeah.
And within that budget, we also try to address some of the accessibility in terms of curbs. And there was talk perhaps earlier this year that we were going to try, or perhaps we could address that in its own sort of way, in its own budget line, as it were, within this budget, to address, say, 5, 6, 10, and I don't know the cost per time, of some of the more serious and more walked areas in town to make it more accessible. Again, whether you have mobility issues, whether you're pushing a stroller, is that something we could possibly explore within this budget in terms of breaking that out, or setting aside a different portion of money within that to address those accessibility needs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Taylor, certainly it could be. We have not prepared a program for that, though, for this budget. So certainly, if that was a request to council moving forward, we could look into that. But no, not yet.
Okay. All right. On a separate issue, in terms of looking at road maintenance, our crews do a really good job in terms of crack sealing and of pothole repair. We have the equipment, and sometimes people use the Report a Problem app, and they're right onto those potholes in and around town. Where I see some other issues that are a little more, I would say, complex. I'll call them like heaves, I guess, or humps within town, that are a little more complicated to repair, right? In terms of maintenance, and how we can create, again, a maintenance program to deal with this. Because if you look around town, and me driving my 2-year-old daughter to sleep while she naps, driving around town, I've driven every road in town, and again, we're right on with crack sealing and pothole repair. It's some of those heaves that are actually the more problematic thing on some of our roads. And I don't know how to explore that. I assume this is within an operating, and how to go about doing that, whether it is contracting, or perhaps we could do it in-house. I don't know. And I don't know the complexities of the costs of these things. But how do we you know, and I could, if later, if, you know, when we get to a motion portion, you know, look at a motion in terms of exploring a heave or call them humps program that we could look at. I don't know what I want to call it, the Edson Humps program, but we could call it lots of things. But to address that and to have, whether it is a program that addresses 10 of them or however that works, so.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, great question. We don't have a specific program developed for addressing those heaves that are caused, we think, by just shallow infrastructure pipes that move up and down with the frost and the wetness in the ground. Our roads crew, our department there, does try to tackle them if they can, but admittedly, it's a lower priority compared to other programs that we have. So if it was something specific the council wanted to action, we would have to develop a program to do that. Contracted versus in-house, we do have the expertise and tools to remove them, but the challenge is asphalt. They're too big of patches for the equipment we have to do the asphalt repair, so we depend on contractors for that. Asphalt is particularly hard to tie down, especially at this time of year. Case in point, the 12 fab repairs we did, we keep getting an extension of when they're going to come and do that for us. So contracted services may be the best way to do that, because then maybe you can tie in some of that asphalt work a bit better. But certainly, if it's a will of council to develop a more robust program for that, that's something we can look into.
Councillor Trotchko.
Thanks. Through the chair to administration or GM Kitlets. So my question kind of ties along with Councillor Taylor's question about just annual maintenance. And I know a few years back, or maybe it was last year, I can't remember, we talked about doing the asphalt, the tar sealing, the black tar sealing, and trying to get all the cracks sealed. And then there's the asphalt spray machine. And I think you were going to do one half of the town one year, you know, because we were behind, and then kind of the other half the other year. Where are we with that as far as, like, have we completed the whole town? Do we have to go back and keep maybe addressing areas that, you know, some fell out or got missed? Or
Is this a budget question?
yes, it's a budget
Okay.
question. Yeah, yes. Like, so is that included in the budget that's been presented to kind of have that continued, I guess, maintenance on the crack sealing and the spray program?
To you, Mr. Mayor, the answer to that is yes. We have a materials budget for those materials to continue those programs, yes. But I don't have data on how far we got and where we're at this point in time. But it is in the budget.
Thank you. CO Beveridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To supplement GM Kitlets with regards to the humps, if the road assessment is approved, that program is approved in 2026 in this budget, we'll have updated data, which will drive us to be able to deal with those. So again, that road assessment that we do, it really drives these decisions when it comes to these types of maintenance issues. And sometimes, to be fair, they have come up. I do recall we started this about 3 years ago, the humps on just across from Independent, if you will, in that area. We did that. We took it down to gravel because of the issues that we were seeing. We did reduce a few other humps, but again, it's about this road assessment data that actually drives our decision-making when it comes to what priority roads get taken care of over us just choosing roads because they're bothersome. And they maybe are more traveled for sure, but the reality is we would like to be able to present that road assessment data to be able to guide the decision-making towards this program.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through the mayor to CO Beveridge. I appreciate that, and I guess that's something you know, we'll have to wait for that. I appreciate we'll have that data so we can appropriately address those things and not just doing it kind of, I'll say, willy-nilly throughout, right? So yeah, that satisfies my concern there. So thank you.
All right, moving on.
Social programs and services includes FCSS, our Family Community Support Services, medical facilities, cemetery, and community development. New budget requests in this area include cemetery new software for $15,000. Under the revenue area, public health has been reduced due to the reduction in rent for the medical facility. Community development increased its cost-sharing revenue and a draw from reserves for the Youth Council Bursary Program. On the expense side, FCSS, there is some cost savings in materials, goods, and supplies, as well as a reduction in grant to other organizations. Public health reduces the contribution to reserves. At this point, we will likely have to bring that back at a later date because we will need maintenance on those facilities, and we currently have no contribution to reserve. And it was decided due to not having any revenue coming in on it. So we'll have to readdress that. Cemetery has a new software ask and an increase in supplies for columbarium plaques. Community development has included $40,000 for community grant program, $15,000 for transportation grant, and $6,000 increase for the youth council bursaries, supported by draw from reserve. Note there's an error. I have an error on this particular slide for public transportation expense for 2025. You'll see 76,000 there. That was just a keying entry error, and it should be 153,260. So you'll see the difference between 2025 and 2026 is a decrease of 18,000. That also affects a correction to the adjusted net bottom line change for between 25 and 26 is 106,000.
Any questions on those items? Just on cemetery, I know we've had this discussion before, is, how are our rates compared? Have we done a review of the rates at the cemetery? Because I know at one point we were pretty much subsidizing the plaques and things at the landfill, or not the landfill, the cemetery, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Hawken.
Through the mayor, we are currently doing an assessment of how to get closer to cost recovery within the cemetery. So this is not only looking at the rates, but also looking at the level of service as well as the expenses in that, and that will be prepared for the more comprehensive budget review in November.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Recreation, Parks, and Culture groups together the Community Services Admin, Parks, Leisure Center, Griffiths Park, and Culture Services. New budget requests include under Parks area asphalt trail maintenance of $40,000, under Parks playground maintenance of $10,000. Under Culture, we have the Echo Red Brick requesting an increased annual funding for staffing of $10,000. That increases their annual request from $25,000 to $35,000 annually. And they've also requested a one-time funding for capital improvements of $50,000. Under the revenue side, we have Community Services Admin adjusted by the internal transfers. And Parks in 2025 had a one-time transfer from reserves, and 26 was adjusted by internal transfers. Leisure Center, we have adjusted revenues to better reflect actuals and cost-sharing agreement, but is offset by arena rentals and a reduction in transfer from reserves of $35,000 seen in 2025. Culture revenue increased due to the library naming sponsorship and cost-sharing agreement. When we look at the expense side, Community Services Administration, we have an accounting adjustment to move youth bursaries to the community development area as they are responsible for administering those programs. There's an adjustment in internal transfers and centralization of supplies too, affecting that area. Parks have adjustments for internal transfers. There's 11,000 increase in contracted services, and it includes grants to the Lions Club and the Wilmore Park caretaker for a net increase of 24,500. Griffiths Park has adjustments for internal transfers, but it's also offset by 6,000 decrease in utility expenses. The Leisure Center has contracted services increase of 10,000. There's adjustments for internal transfers also, and there's offset of 60,000 for decrease in utilities and 10,000 for decrease in supplies. In the culture area, we have a 110,000 increase in expenses. Majority of that is due to increases in grants to other organizations. Edson and District Library increase was 11,000. Edson District Historical Society, is an increase of 5,000. Echo or Red Brick is an increase of 60,000, including the one-time allocation and 50,000 for their capital repairs, capital improvements. Net bottom line change in this area is 518,000. Open for questions.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to administration, you mentioned the cost sharing agreement with the county on the leisure center. Currently, the county pays 35% on operating, and that will go up to 40% upon completion of the multiplex. But when does the 40% kick in? Is it when the whole building is complete? Because we are expecting certain portions to be open perhaps sooner. And does that change? The vision was perhaps having the pool open first. Does that change when they start their 40%?
We're still negotiating the operating agreement, so, so we'll have to see how that all fleshes out with the operating agreement.
Okay.
Obviously, when the original agreement between the two municipalities was formed, it was on a completely new build, so it was going to be one building ends, one building starts. Obviously, things have changed, so I think it's something we'll have to negotiate with our partners at Yellowhead County as to how that looks, especially during the transition period, because there'll be different components opening up at different times. So, Councillor Chachka?
Oh, thank you. Through the chair to administration, just a question regarding the park's asphalt trail maintenance. Is that just like another crack sealer type of thing, or is it more elaborate than that? Or is that what it is?
GM Kitlitz?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Sorry, Ms. McDonald mentioned that through parks, one of the expenses was an asphalt trail maintenance, a machine, I'm not sure what, something for asphalt trail maintenance. I was just curious if that was like a machine or just a program.
It's a program.
Okay.
To continue to put more time and effort into the trail.
Okay,
maintenance. Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? So with the trail assessment that's going to be done, GM Kitlitz, is that gonna encompass all the trails? Millennium Park behind the red brick, the trail in there is original from when that park was built and it is failing. So like, obviously we have a lot of trail network, and once again, we're getting caught here because we haven't had good maintenance programs in some of these areas. So I guess, what is that all going to entail? Does that just in-town trails? Does that include Wilmore Park? What does that look like?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a good question. So we're developing this program right now and to full extent. So one of the things we had done here that we haven't shared with council fully yet is we did a bit of an asset management framework, and that document outlines how we complete condition assessments of all our assets. So it actually has pictures, a rating system for sanitary manholes, water valves, roads. We don't have one for trails. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a matrix, a condition matrix for trails, and we're going to try to do this in-house, very similar to a lot of the other condition assessments you do. The only one we don't do is the one that CAO Beverage talked about a bit earlier about the road assessments. Those are done typically every 5 years by an outside party. They have that vehicle that drives down and does all the condition assessment for it. So that one's a bit more high tech. But the idea is we're going to inventory all our trails, asphalt, gravel, throughout town, get assessments and condition assessments on them all, and then come up with a really more of a wholesome program on how to tackle this. Very similar to what we're doing with all of our other assets. This is just the next one on the list for us to do. So,
Thank you, appreciate that. Continue on, Ms. McDonald.
In the planning and economic development area, we have new budget requests for under the planning area for the IDP with Yellowhead County cost sharing 50-50 with the town, and we're supporting it by draw from reserves. Under the revenue side, we have a decrease of $241,000 due to a draw from reserves in 2025, but it includes a $50,000 draw in 2026 for the IDP. Economic development budget was adjusted to ensure realistic grant revenue is included and tied to expenses. It includes 30,000 reduction in the rural revenue stream and 75,000 for Travel Alberta. Under the expense categories, planning experiences a decrease in contracted services previously supported by a draw from reserves. Economic development has a decrease of 7,000. Net bottom line change is 147,000 increase. Open for questions.
Anything on planning and ECDEV? Continue on.
Environmental services include water, wastewater, which is sewer, waste collection, waste management, which includes landfill and recycling. New budget requests include waste water vapor testing pilot for 25,000, landfill groundwater monitoring well replacement for 10,000. Under the revenue side, our water includes a full year at the new rates that were effective in April of 2025. Sewer includes a full year at the new rates and an increase in lagoon disposal fees totaling 250,000. So offset by a transfer from reserves in 2025 by 125,000 not needed in 2026. Landfill reduces revenue due to lack of metal sales. Revenue and collection decreased cost sharing revenue. Blah. Reduced revenue due to lack of metal sales. Revenue and collection decreased in the cost sharing revenue formula. Under recycling, we have decreases due to EPR, which is the extended producer responsibility. When we look at the expenses in this category, our water was adjusted for increase to reserves of 263,000 as is a self-supporting department, and there's a decrease in contracted services by 24,000, and materials, goods, and services of 28,000, plus a debenture paid down for a cost savings of 8,000. Under the sewer area, we have contracted services increasing 35,000, a decrease in debenture of 15,000, and being a self-supporting department, there's additional transfers to reserves of 81,000. Waste collection, there's just a slight decrease, and landfill, we have a 16,000 increase in contracted services, 133,000 increase in transfer to reserves as it is self-supporting. Net bottom line change is 0 as these are self-supporting departments supported by user fees. Open for questions on this area.
Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the chair to administration. My question is regarding the water and the sewer rates. I know you mentioned that I think they were increased as of April or something, not necessarily January 1st. Since there is such a large infrastructure gap, not just in that area, I mean everywhere, but specifically in the water and the sewer area, and with a desire for the public on the engagement sessions that it is palatable to have an increase in that area, as long as it's supported by spending in that area, that's how it's allocated, and we do have projects on the go. My question is why we wouldn't have an increase in those user fees when we know that that's one of the methods that we can target that infrastructure gap.
GM Kitlitz.
Great question through you, Mr. Mayor. We haven't proposed them at this point in time. We've balanced the budget with what we have. I know that there's an outstanding council budget request, I think, to do sort of a utility rate model. And I think we're kind of, at this point, maybe we're waiting a little bit for that, but at this point, we haven't proposed an increase. So.
All right, thank you for that response. Anybody else? Any further questions or comments? Go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
Land Division is a self-supported department also, and its costs reflect a speculative sale and an increase of 200,000 for Hillendale prospectus package and a reduction in reserve transfers from 145,000 to 6,000. There's a reduced cost of land sales to be in line with the one speculative sale. Open for questions in that area. With that, that is our departments as a glance, and we'll pass it back to council to move into a closed session to discuss personal information.
All right, is there any further questions on the public portion so far in this agenda package? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka. We do have some other public items after the closed session, just let you know.
Okay, thanks through the mayor to administration. Sorry, I needed a moment to think to Mr. Kitlett's response. So I also was the one who presented that utility rate kind of review motion a few years back, and I do understand it's comprehensive. I absolutely agree that that is probably a challenge to do. My question is though, or I guess maybe concern, is that while we're still waiting for that review to happen, you know, when I look back at that that presentation we had a couple years ago regarding our, you know, water rates not kind of meeting what we need them to be, and we're trying to work on that. We're trying to drill some wells. You know, we know there's challenges to that too. When you drill a well, it just doesn't mean great water immediately. We are working on some of our infrastructure. Like, we're definitely addressing some of those issues that were presented, but there's still a ways to go. And being a 100-year-old community, like, it took us some time to get here. It's going to take us some time to get out of the kind of, I guess, the hard point that we're in with some of those immediate pressing needs. And when I, you know, I guess to get to my point is, you know, when I see other communities that are a bit more sustainable, some of their water rates are a lot higher than ours. So I can't help but think that there's a correlation that those increased water rates are a method to make that community sustainable in those in that infrastructure gap area. So even something like a 5% increase, which I looked on my bigger bill in the summer, and that would have equated to about a $2.20 for each one. So, you know, under $5 a month, which I realize that everything adds up, but an increase on our utility rates affects other groups that don't have to pay taxes. So it would kind of help them pay their share. So I would be interested in seeing something brought back for the next meeting that shows maybe a little bit of an increase there while we're waiting for the utility rate, because I don't think it's going to come back and say that, oh, everything's great, you don't need to have any more increases, right? I think that's probably, I think we all know that that's not what the report's going to say. So that's just my comment and suggestion there. I'm not sure if we need a motion or if that's something to deal with later, but we were just talking about it, so.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Chachka. We will have some motions afterwards, so if that's something you desire, then we can certainly look at that. I will take a motion now to go into close. Actually, before we do a motion to close, can I get a motion to extend past 8 p.m. if necessary? Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
I'll make the motion to extend past 8 if necessary.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried. And a motion to go into closed session, please. Go ahead, Councillor Moore.
I make the motion to go in camera.
All right, going into closed session. All those in favor? Councillor Chenard, you're in favor. Thank you. Motion carried. I will put this meeting back into public session, just talking about some personnel items with the budget. We will now go back to Ms. McDonald. Go ahead.
Okay, well, now we'll move into the budget impact and summary. Based on a This is the residential impact based on 2.7% municipal tax levy increase. It assumes no change in assessed market value, education, or requisition taxes. Comparing what each house would have paid in 2025 and then holding the requisitions for education and Evergreens Foundation, the same determines the impact to the property owners. So a $250,000 house would see an increase of $4 per month. The $350,000 house would increase $5 per month, and $450,000 would increase $7 per month. On the non-residential impact based on 2.7% municipal tax levy increase, comparing what each property would have paid in 2025, then holding education Evergreen Foundation constant, the impact would be $500,000 increase for $18 a month. $1.5 million assessment increase would be $54 a month, and a $2 million assessment would increase by $72 a month. That leads us into a summary and the next steps. This is council's opportunity to provide input on the 2026 budget. This includes a 2.7% tax levy increase, no increase to tax user fees or increase to the utility fees, and the 2026 capital projects total $52.4 million. After the election, we will introduce the budget to the incoming council to ensure continuity and understanding. Then on November 18th, we will formally propose a draft budget for approval. The final steps ensure budget reflects both current, future leadership priorities. In closing, I'd like to express my gratitude to Mayor and Council for your time and attention during this budget presentation. I want to thank all managers and staff for their collaboration through the budget process. I've witnessed a desire to seek improvement and understanding and embracing change while facing challenges with inflation and future infrastructure requirements. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Mayor and Council for a discussion.
Thank you very much, Ms. McDonald, and a big thank you to you and your team and the entire staff here for your hard work on this budget. Obviously, going from your year-end to budget, it's been quite the transition, but we appreciate the dedication and hard work, and it has not gone unnoticed by this council. All right, council, I will open the floor to any further questions, comments, motions of any adjustments you want to see in the proposed budget. I do have a motion that I'd like to put on the floor if I can. If somebody would like to move that we remove the grant and procurement coordinator position from the proposed 2026 budget. Go ahead, Councillor Chenard.
I'll make the motion as you said it because it never popped up. I don't know what exactly you said, but I agree with you. Motion as
So
you
moved
said.
would have been perfectly
moved.
fine, thank you.
I was looking for wording. Oh, there we go. Enter password. I'll just, so move, council. I'll make the motion, council.
You already made the motion, you're good.
I'm good?
You're good.
Okay, then let's vote on it.
So the motion on the floor is that council remove the grant procurement coordinator from the 2026 budget. Council, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? I'll just speak to this. We are utilizing a firm for advocacy, and part of that firm will be also assisting with grants. And we have a robust grant program that we always apply to throughout the year for various grants. This will save a large chunk of our budget, and with all the pressures that we're facing as a community, I don't think this position is necessary at this time. So I will be supporting this motion. Council, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That motion is carried unanimously. Council, do you have any further motions you'd like to make? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the mayor to administration, I would like to move that administration bring back an increase to water and wastewater user fees by 5% to continue addressing the capital infrastructure gap related to water and sanitary sewer infrastructure in our community. Yep. I move that administration bring back an increase to the water and wastewater user fees by 5% to continue addressing the capital infrastructure gap related to water and sanitary sewer infrastructure in our community.
As that motion goes up on the screen, do you want to speak to that motion at all?
Yes, I can speak to that. So the reason for this is that when I came on council 8 years ago, the water and sewer, those items on our utility bill, operationally were cost recovery or attempted to be. And administration alluded to that. That is still the same case today. But in the past couple years, we have increased we have had some minor increases to those water and wastewater rates to start addressing the capital aspect of those areas. So when someone, flushes their toilet, they're paying for the new water that's coming into their house. And as that water sanitary goes down the sanitary line, all those pipes aren't being addressed right now, or to the extent to recover, to completely cover the replacement cost of those. And that's something that we've heard in the community, that there's some challenges there, and we're not oblivious to that by any means. And one example earlier that was mentioned tonight that we haven't been able to address is 7th Ave. And traditionally, we've been relying on the provincial government and federal government grants to address that, and frankly, it's just we just don't have as much anymore. It's just not there. That funding is limited, and it's supposed to cover everything. This is an area that we can use these funds and start addressing those underground infrastructure, which then also fixes the road on top of it when we address it, right? So when we're replacing those lines, then we can also fix those roads on the top as we have been doing so in the past couple of years. So that's kind of the reason behind that. Yes.
All right, thank you. I think there's just a little bit of an error in the motion on there. It should be by 5%, not to 5%.
5%. Yes, to continue addressing. Yes, thank you.
All right, so the motion on the floor, is that correct, Councillor Chachka, what you see on the screen there? The council direct administration increase water and wastewater fees by 5% to continue to address the water and sanitary sewer infrastructure gap in the community.
Yep.
All right, any questions, comments, concerns, debate on Councillor Chachka's motion? Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor, to all of council, before, and this is gonna be tough, I'd like to know what that impact might be to a ratepayer. I know it's 5%. The second thing, and this question is to Councillor Chachka, are you looking at then this going to a specific reserve or maintenance areas, or just directly back into, I guess, utilities or that sort of area? Do you have a vision in terms of where we direct this additional 5%?
Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Taylor. So right now, the additional fees that the user fees that are already associated go into that environment capital reserve for water and wastewater. And when that gets to a certain amount of money, then we have enough money to actually do a project. So that's kind of my understanding, is that will accumulate, and we'll have an opportunity to fund a project with the money in reserves. That is directly related to the water and sanitary system in our community, not directed to other things.
Thank you, Councillor Chachka. And it's important to know, while this will be brought forward as a part of the next budget cycle, we're not making a decision on actually doing it until we go through the budget process. It's just to include it in the next budget document, right? So, and at that time, I'm sure administration will bring out the impacts as to what that looks like in terms of utility ratepayers. Councillor Pasichny.
Yeah, through the mayor, maybe to administration, do we not just have a utility rate review? Wasn't it that long ago?
We did have an increase in last year, but we haven't done the complete review yet. So we have talked about, as Ms. McDonald did her presentation here a few weeks ago, that our rates are much lower than other municipalities our size, but we haven't done a complete review. Do you have anything you want to supplement, Ms. McDonald, on that?
Yes, sorry, I didn't realize my mic was on. Thank you for the question. Just a rough calculation of 5% on the current revenue that is sitting in that fund is $318,000.
All right, thank you. Council, any further questions, comments, concerns? Well, I'll just comment on this. I do agree with the sentiment of Councillor Chachko on this, that we have a lot of infrastructure needs. We have been challenged with reduced funding from other levels of government, and infrastructure continues to get older. The cost that we're replacing that infrastructure continues to increase and becoming more complicated. You'll see here as we reviewed our capital plan, water degrass upgrade construction of $5.5 million, and it's a regulatory requirement that we must do in order to meet regulations. We have the wastewater treatment plant, another regulatory thing on a brand new wastewater treatment plant that's going to cost us a lot of money. By not making the decisions today, we are handcuffing the future of this community. I don't want to pay anymore. Nobody wants to pay anymore. But utilities are a great way of increasing revenue for this municipality because it actually impacts those that are utilizing the services. If you are a taxpayer in this community, if you are a resident in this community, you have to realize that there are so many properties that don't pay taxes, provincial buildings, hospitals, schools, churches. There's so many tax exempt properties that if we increase taxes, that doesn't impact that in any of those areas. We increase utilities, now we start actually generating revenue off of those properties, and the provincial government is a good indication of that. Now, I also know that how tough it is for families out there, so while I like to see this included in the future budget documents, I don't think I can make a hard decision on that until we actually get revised numbers. As we know, the budget's always fluid because there's only so much that individuals can pay, and I'm very conscious of that fact. And the affordability in this country is challenging. So with that, I'll hand things over to Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the merit behind the motion for sure. There was a time when we subsidized our water in our community and our bills were really low, and we realized that wasn't the right path. So we've moved to this cost recovery. I'm actually going to be voting against it today. It's not because I don't support the idea. I'm voting against it because it's pretty vague. I like and I dislike what our utility companies have done with their bills. They have a distribution cost or a fixed cost, but it's not really fixed because they just your bill goes up, it goes up. I would prefer maybe a different view at it, like where if we have an infrastructure replacement fee, then you identify that on the bill, as opposed to just adding 5%. It identifies where that money is going. Like right now, I know that I'm paying 14 something a month to the wastewater treatment plant. I know I'm paying my portion of that, and I'm okay with that. When you just slap 5% on there, it goes up and down. And I guess there's arguments to that with the non-tax paying users. But at the end of the day, if I know that my fixed cost on my water bill is $85 with my wastewater treatment plant and my waste management and my infrastructure replacement cost, I know that if I don't use any water, I'm still paying those costs. Because here's the thing: somebody who lives on the street and they're gone for 6 months and their water is turned off, their bill isn't really going up, but they're not paying the fix because their rate was low because they haven't had to use any water consumption, yet the cost of the infrastructure still applies. So I would prefer a different model on it. I don't disagree with it. I mean, if you live in a major center like Edmonton where your utilities are covered by EPCOR, they already have that included in their bills, and I understand that. But this is just too vague of a motion for me, so I will be voting against it.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to council, I sort of echo what Councillor Pisichny was saying. having a fixed rate on there with this type of thing is a better way to certainly budget for residents and ratepayers, so they know what they're getting. It's not going to fluctuate with users and things like that. Question though to administration, you didn't recommend water and wastewater fees to increase. Is that because we want to do a review of this at a later time when we have a better understanding and scope of this? Because if that's the plan, I'd rather wait until we've done that review and we know perhaps what we should be increasing, not just 5%. It could be more, it could be less. What is, is that some of administration's thoughts when they were looking at this?
Go ahead, GM Kitlitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think that's a fair assessment by Councillor Taylor. As we mentioned, we're putting in, we're following the reserve policy in terms of our contributions to operating capital reserves. We're finding efficiencies in those budgets, still managing to keep service levels going without those increases. And so the utility rate model is about finding out what that data is to support the infrastructure gap. We don't have that data right now. So I think that's probably where we stand, but certainly if it's the will of council to look at some increases before that time, by all means, we'll consider those and bring that information back. But right now, until we've, if we would have did the budget and found out that we were short, we probably would have came through with some sort of an increase, but we managed to fit it within what we have. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the chair to administration, I think just some of the wording that I have in the motion was that to direct, that council direct administration to bring back.
Sorry, you can't change the motion.
Oh, I can't, sorry. Okay, anyways. And so to address some of the other comments that council made, yes, I agree. I think having an allocation so you understand where those fixed charges are on your bill is absolutely, I think, helpful. There's certainly pros and cons to just having a flat fee, and I don't think that that's necessary to get into that tonight. That's certainly broader perspective on this topic. But so the reason why I think that there's a necessary to have an increase in our water and wastewater fees is because we still have to replace all that infrastructure. And that's what it is. That's the bottom line, is that the federal government and the provincial government, we know that their funds are tight. We know that they're not offering more and more money towards this, but yet there's huge infrastructure deficits across the country. And there are communities in the province, there's one on one side of us that's just getting water meters installed, and that's where they're at with this process. And there's other ones that have more for full cost recovery, and their water rates are like astronomically higher than ours. Is that where ours need to be? I don't know. And that's where that utility rate model will come. But in the meantime, we know that we're below. We know that we're below, and this is to help us not get further behind due to inflation. And that it's been mentioned several times, every time these projects come back for reassessment in quotes, they're way more money, sometimes double. And the faster that we can start addressing the underground infrastructure in our community, the better it is for everybody. And we have to pay for that too. So people that are using more water then pay more, right? So it's not just the residents that are paying, but it's all the industry as well that are utilizing our water services that will then start paying a little bit more towards what they're contributing to on our infrastructure services.
Councillor Chenard.
Just to comment, because I'm agreeing with what Councillor Chachka is saying, that we need more, but I was trying to figure out, and then after I heard the other side of the table, it makes sense, right? Everyone pays that $14.75. The next council, maybe look at, once we get the study back, maybe it's $10 a month or $12 a month, and make it replacement, and it goes to the fund. So I can't support the motion, not because I'm against the idea, it's just the way it is. I can't support the motion the way it stands.
Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to all of council and perhaps just to Councillor Chachka. Again, I sort of echo what Councillor Positionny had said earlier. I don't disagree with your thoughts in terms of trying to improve and get ahead and create that fund to deal with those infrastructure issues. What I would like to see, though, if we are going to do it, is to have the data to support that increase. And that's the full assessment of what we're doing. So That's so that when I look at residents in the community say, why'd you have an increase? Well, I have the data to back up. This is the reason, and this is how we arrived at this number. It wasn't just 5% or whatever. It was 5% or 6% for these reasons. So I think I'm going to be voting against this motion as well tonight.
Go ahead, Legislative Services.
I just would like to note that this motion as written is missing a couple words from Councillor Chachka's motion, being that direct administration to bring this back. So I just want to highlight that.
Is she able to amend that?
Correct.
She can? Okay.
Correct. Yes,
Okay, that's what she said. Okay. So can we change that up there then, please? Okay, thank you. Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. Through the chair to council. So yes, I agree. We should have the data before making some of these decisions. I absolutely don't disagree with that. The motion that I proposed, it was probably 2 or 3 budget cycles ago, was to bring back a utility rate review model before we do this. But we did recognize at that time, and that year, I think we have had an increase in this the past couple of years, including last year, on the same merit that I'm bringing forward today. That merit has not changed at all. It is based on that we recognize that we do have a gap. We just don't know how big the gap is. And that's fair, right? We don't have the data, but we know that we're not there. Otherwise, we would be able to fund all our projects, and we can't. So, and I guess further to this sentiment is that with the public engagement that we recently had, our residents have said they support an increase in this area to address our infrastructure deficit for our water and our sewer pipes. So I think there's a desire to have the funds to do those projects.
Thank you, Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Chechka. I think a full cost recovery may be a real challenge in a community our size. Just look at the numbers tonight. Ms. McDonald said it would be a 5% increase, it would generate about $380,000. And early in our budget meeting, we have a degas project worth $5.5 million. To generate, what did our wastewater treatment cost? $14 million, and we're paying quite dearly for that. So it's a real challenge if we want to go to that full cost recovery, because frankly, the water bills you'd have to almost double them to have the real money set aside to do full cost recovery. So the reality in a community our size, I believe, is a lot of grant funding. Again, I just think that it's not 100% realistic, and I think this is just, if we're not generating the money I think we're going to generate with it to be able to do full cost recovery.
Thank you, Councillor Chachka.
Thanks, through the chair to Councillor Pisichny. So my motion isn't to bring back a full cost recovery model, because I think that would be probably an astronomical increase to our bill, and I don't know what that is. Perhaps when the utility rate review model comes forward, there will be some indications on what that might look like, but I know 5% is not going to get us anywhere close to that, and that's not the intention either. That will be a discussion for council at that time.
Anything new? We've batted this around the table a lot. So I will support this motion only for the fact that it'll give us some information for the next set of budgets for the incoming council. And there is an infrastructure gap, and that's not going to go away, and delaying this decision is not going to serve our community well for the long term. Once again, it impacts every single user in this community, including the provincial government that does not pay its fair share currently. So that's why I'll be supporting it. And once again, the final decision on doing this will come during the end of this budget process and as we review the fees and rates and charges bylaw as well. So, I'm looking here that we're proposing at this point, and this will change likely, to borrow $3.9 million for 2 important projects for underground infrastructure, and largely driven by regulatory changes by the federal and provincial governments, and then they don't provide us with the grant funding to do it. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion is defeated. All right, do we have any other motion? Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to council, just a slight preamble before my motion is that we have a unique user group in town around the volleyball area, volleyball skateboard park area that use that area quite significantly. There was a request from that user group to provide lighting because they play significantly into the evening. So I would like to move that, sorry, get my glasses on. I'd like to move that council direct administration to explore lighting the area over the volleyball court and skateboard park area and bring that back for future budget discussion.
You want to speak to that any more, or do you have anything you want to add? She's getting it on the screen.
Yeah, I can speak to that motion. Again, we're always looking at ways to provide safe areas for residents to have outdoor activities. This is an area that's very well used. Having lighting in that area, they can play a lot later. They already play it quite late, you know, it's great to have these sort of outdoor areas. We did this very similarly at the Griffiths Park basketball court, which is heavily used. I think it's a timer light there. It can be very similar at the volleyball area. And again, this is just to explore this and to bring this back and figure out future costs of this. This is not to sort of solidify at this moment we're doing this, but certainly to look at the cost and then see when the council discusses it at that time if they would like to proceed with it.
All right, thank you. Council, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns on the motion? All right, so I'll speak to this. So we just had a motion where we don't have enough money for water and wastewater. Now we're going to add something that I actually agree with Councillor Taylor. It'd be lovely to see. I see people utilizing that area quite frequently, and it's great to see people out there. And I was a promoter of Griffiths Park, but we are once again we have a ton of above the line projects on our capital budget list. We have a whole bunch that are below the line, which we can't fund, which we can't do. So unless council is willing to remove something off of the list, I can't see us supporting this at this point in time. I'm not saying it's not a valid project, but I won't be able to support this motion, especially if we're not going to be making the hard decisions to increase revenue on our capital projects list. So that's my comment. Any other further comments, questions, concerns? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
Sorry, excuse me. Through the mayor to administration, would this type of, I'm not sure if it's a one-off or a part of our parks plan, would this type of a project be more geared towards a parks plan and looking at what we want to do in the community, not just here, but in other locations? Is that better to bring something like that better forward when we have all the data?
Go ahead, GM Kitlitz.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's a valid point that we would absolutely suggest is the best way to do this. There's ample demand for park and recreation space and opportunities in our community. Prioritizing that demand is going to be the challenge, and yeah, that would be my suggestion. Is that's a great time to explore those opportunities as a community, decide where our priorities are going to be.
All right, thank you. Council, any further questions, comments, concerns? All right, so we have a motion on the floor that council direct administration to explore lighting for the volleyball skateboard park area for future budget discussions. All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion is defeated. Any other motions? Go ahead, Councillor Chachka.
Thanks. My question is through the chair to administration. So on the below the line items, we've got a couple more items that I'm just a bit curious about. I know you've already mentioned you've taken them out, for other reasons. The medical center roof replacement and the food bank building envelope. So I know, the roof replacement is over 300,000, which is, that's a lot of money. And the envelope is about 65,000 for the food bank. So what made these items go below the line and the other ones above? I know you had your matrix, and I probably should have asked at that time. I apologize. But you did mention, sorry, maybe through to GM Hawken, that you tried to consolidate some of the roof replacement ones. And I guess specifically on that one, why would the medical center not be included? I'm not sure if it was just bigger in volume or bigger in dollar size, but I'm just curious why that one's below.
Go ahead, GM Hawken.
Through the mayor to Councillor Chachka, I would like to give you a much more educated answer. Through my recommendations of the facilities manager who knows these projects much more in depth and understands which ones have a higher need of they must be done now versus which ones do not need to and they can survive for, say, another year. That is the rationale I have at this moment. However, I would like to provide a more in-depth answer, and I can get that to council at a later date of the exact reason why this roof was left off where we kept 3 other roof ones on. That's a fair question.
All right, council, any further questions, comments, motions? Councillor Taylor.
Through the mayor to administration, my apologies for not bringing this up forward when we were looking at the capital plan. So beneath the line, I do see RCMP Centennial Park Pavilion, and there's a grant for 55,000, so it covers half of it. Is that, am I correct? Am I reading that? Yeah, it is. Is there a reason? Is this grant available in future years then, if we wish to hold that project for another year? Just wondering that.
CO Beveridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Councillor Taylor. This item was pulled below the line for the exact reason that we just spoke about an overall review of what we need, the needs of this community for our park spaces. We felt like focusing in just one area versus not looking at other areas as well was not the direction we're trying to move forward with our planning for our community. Sometimes when we make these one-of decisions, that's what they are, one-of decisions, and we may have not thought of another area that required something more. As long as I've been with this organization and before this particular council, a parks plan has been on our plan to do, and I'd really like to be able to move forward and properly plan out the parks for this community, to find the needs, assess what our community desires for our park spaces, and have a finer look at it. So that's essentially the rationale behind, whether we have grant funding or not. Sometimes just because there's a grant, we can do lots of things if there's a grant. We often get that challenge is, there's a grant, we should do this. That's not good planning, in my opinion, for our community, especially of our progressive community, if you will.
Thank you, council. Any further questions or comments? Anything further? Going once? Going twice? All right. Well, that's been a fun evening, everyone. So I guess the next steps are we will take a motion to accept the proposed draft budget as information. Go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I move that council accept the draft 2026 operating capital budget as information.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Once again, thank you to our finance team and everybody for spending their evening with us and all the hard work that's gone into this. No doubt the incoming council will have a lot of difficult decisions to make in terms of the priorities for the community. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Do you vote in favor, Councillor Bevan?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Although everybody's in favor, that motion is carried. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting.